and gentlemen, please welcome the former Speaker of the Texas House of Representatives, Joe Straus.
Hey, welcome. Welcome, everybody. You know how we can tell Nikki Haley's here? The sun came out. I want to thank you all for taking the time to come out and give a very friendly San Antonio welcome to Ambassador Nikki Haley. As we all know, this is a really important time in our community. It's rodeo time. Over these past few months, Nikki has seen more bull than at the stock show. But she's still standing strong. And by now, you all know Nikki's story. She's the only female governor in the history of South Carolina. And she was the first governor in the United States whose spouse was deployed overseas. Now that may not be important to some people in this race, but here in Military City, USA, we appreciate the service and the sacrifice of all of our military families. I'm supporting Nikki Haley for president because she is clearly the best person for the job. And Nikki Haley doesn't need others to show America that she still has her fastball. She is a leader in her prime. And just like America, Nikki Haley's best days are ahead of her. Nikki Haley has foreign policy experience. She understands who our allies are. She also understands who our allies are not. You can see today's news and understand that. And we can trust her to be honest with the American people and to be a great leader for the free world. When early voting starts this Tuesday, in just 4 days from today, Texas will have a chance to bring an end to the unnecessary, self-inflicted chaos that has engulfed the Republican Party for far too long. So please go vote, get all of your friends to vote starting Tuesday for this energetic, optimistic, future-focused leader who our country needs and needs right now, Ambassador Nikki Haley.
Thank you. Help me thank Joe and his leadership. We appreciate you so much. There will be more. There will be more. You know what I want to tell you, though, first is don't be angry at any of the people that do this, because my husband and every military man and woman sacrifice for their rights to do that. I saw every day at the United Nations how blessed we were to live in America, because we have the ability to have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do and be anything we want to be without anyone getting in the way. So we will always allow them to say what they're going to say. There might be more, so get ready for it. But I will tell you, it's so good to be here. You know, my husband trained at one of the military bases here in San Antonio. You've got a great river walk. We had a great time there as well. And I want to tell you, thank you for taking the time to come out. You know, I was the governor of the great state of South Carolina. And I always referred to South Carolina as mini Texas, because we think alike. We act alike. We love our freedoms. We are constantly patriots and freedom fighters. And so it always feels like I'm in a bigger home when I come to Texas. So I'm thrilled to be here. You know, in South Carolina, when I became governor, I came in and we had a double-digit unemployment state. We had thousands of people on welfare, and South Carolina was the butt of the jokes. And we got to work. By the time I left, we were building planes with Boeing. We were building more BMWs than any place in the world. We brought in Mercedes-Benz. We brought in Volvo. 5 international tire companies. They were referring to us as the beast of the Southeast. We moved that 11% unemployment down to 4%. We announced jobs in every county in the state. We passed tort reform. We passed pension reform. We cut taxes. But we acknowledged some truths. We said, if you've got to show picture ID to buy Sudafed, if you've got to show picture ID to get on a plane, you should have to show picture ID to protect the integrity of the election process. We passed voter ID in South Carolina. We passed the toughest illegal immigration law in the country. President Obama sued us over it, and we won. And by the time we left, we were named the friendliest state in the country, the most patriotic state in the country, and the number 2 state in the country people were moving to. And then I went on to the United Nations, and every day I dealt with Russia, China, and Iran. And the one thing I did was I wanted countries to know what America was for and what America was against. I didn't care if they didn't like me, but I wanted them to respect America. And so what we did was we made sure we took the kick me sign off of our backs, and America was respected again at the UN. Now I'm running for president. And I don't need to tell you how tough things are. You don't have to turn on the news to see it. We are $34 trillion in debt. We're having to borrow money just to make our interest payments. China owns some of that debt. And I would love to tell you that Biden did that to us. But I've always spoken in hard truths, and I'm going to do that with you today. Our Republicans did that to us too. You go back and look at that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill that they passed with no accountability, that's now expanded welfare. We now have 80 million Americans on Medicaid, 42 million Americans on food stamps. That's a third of our country. And did Republicans try and make it right? Nope. They opened up pet projects and earmarks for the first time in 10 years, pushing through 7,000 of them. Want to know how they spent your money? $30 million on an honors college in Vermont, $10 million on a courthouse in Colorado, $7.5 million to tear down a hotel in Alaska, all while 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 1 in 6 American families can't pay their utility bill. 50% of American families can't afford diapers. Something's got to give. Congress has one job, and that's to give us a budget on time. Do you know Congress has only given us a budget on time 4 times in 40 years? You know what I say to that? You don't give us a budget on time, you don't get paid, period. And don't you think it's time we finally have term limits in Washington, D.C.? Don't you think we need to have mental competency tests for anyone over the age of 75? Now listen, I'm not being disrespectful when I say that. We all know 75-year-olds that can run circles around us. And then we know Joe Biden. Congress has become the most privileged nursing home in the country. We need to know that they're at the top of their game. These are people making decisions on the future of our economy. These are people making decisions on the future of our national security. We can't play with that. So when it comes to the economy, how do we fix it? First, we start by clawing back the $100 billion of unspent COVID dollars out there. Instead of hundreds of billions of dollars instead of 87,000 IRS agents going after middle America, go after the hundreds of billions of dollars of COVID fraud. 1 out of every $7 was spent fraudulently. If 8% of our budget is interest, quit borrowing. Cut up the credit cards. You have to balance a budget every day. I had to balance a budget as governor. Why is Congress the only group that refuses to balance a budget? We'll stop the spending, we'll stop the borrowing, we'll eliminate their pet projects, and I will veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels. That will save us trillions. Then we'll take as many federal programs as we can and send them down to the state levels. That will reduce the federal government dramatically, but that will empower people on the ground. Think education, think welfare, think healthcare, think mental health. If we can get those services and customize it per state, rather than Washington bureaucrats, that's the way you take care of things. And then we want to open up the middle class. We're watching the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Let's cut taxes on the middle class and simplify the brackets. We want to eliminate the federal gas and diesel tax in this country. And we want to make small business tax cuts permanent. Everybody give it up for the Cortez family who allowed us to be here tonight. Small businesses are the heartbeat of our economy. But we can't just say it, we've got to start acting like it. And then let's talk about the border. I truly can't believe we would allow this to happen in the United States. And I've been to the border. And I didn't pull a Kamala, go and come back. I went 400 miles down that border. You're not ready for what I saw. Mounds of clothes, mounds of shoes, paraphernalia, rape areas that the women and girls have to walk through. When you get up in the morning, you get your coffee and you watch the news. When these ranchers get up in the morning, they get their coffee and they go see if anybody died crossing the fence. Y'all want to hit it back to them? Let's start yelling, America, 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 America. USA, USA, USA. We don't mind protesters, but let everybody that's here listen to what we have to say. Now, when it comes to the border, when I saw what the ranchers were going through, first of all, I totally agree with Governor Abbott sending these illegal immigrants to these sanctuary cities. Everybody needs to know what Eagle Pass is going through. Everybody needs to feel what Texans are feeling. And when I looked at that, I met with multiple sheriffs. They said before 7 a.m., they round up whatever illegal immigrants they can find. They turn them over to Border Patrol. Border Patrol documents them and releases them until their court date years from now. And when I asked Border Patrol about their jobs, they said, you want to know what we do? We're glorified babysitters. They don't let us do our jobs. 8.5 million illegal immigrants have crossed that border. We had more fentanyl cross the border that would kill every single American last year. Number one cause of death for adults 18 to 45, fentanyl. And don't think for a second China doesn't know what they're doing when they send it over. And so we want to take what we did in South Carolina and go national with it. We want to do a national E-Verify program where every business has to prove that the people they hire are in this country legally. We want to defund sanctuary cities once and for all. No more safe havens. We want to put 25,000 Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. We want to go back to the Remain in Mexico policy so that no one even steps foot on U.S. soil. And instead of catch and release, we want to go to catch and deport. That's how you take care of what's happening on the border. And then, you know, my parents always taught me in rural South Carolina, you take care of those who take care of you. But I want to ask you if we're taking care of those who take care of us. Right now in America, over 35,000 of our veterans are homeless. 1 in 3 suffers from PTSD or thoughts of suicide. We lose 22 heroes a day to suicide. If a vet needs a doctor's appointment, on average, takes 29 days. Why 29 days? Because on the 30th day, they can go to the doctor or hospital of their choice. So midway through the 29 days, they get a call to reschedule, and the clock starts all over again. It's shameful how we treat our veterans. Now, I'm the proud wife of a combat veteran who served in Afghanistan. And when Michael came home to us, that was a lot of prayers answered. But that was the easy part. When we got home, life got hard. Michael couldn't hear loud noises. He couldn't be in crowds. Life had passed him by for the year that he was gone, and the transition was tough. We can't just take care of our men and women when they're gone. We got to take care of them when they come back home, too. That's why we want to make sure we do telehealth so that we get them the mental health care they need right when they need it. Let them go to the doctor or hospital of their choice. They've earned that right. And I think the best way we take care of VA health care, I think every member of Congress should have to get their health care from the VA, and you watch how fast that gets fixed. It'll be the best health care you've ever seen, guaranteed. And then when it comes to national security, the best way to take care of national security is when we acknowledge what got us here in the first place. We've got a war in Europe. We've got a war in the Middle East. We've got North Korea testing intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of hitting the U.S. We've got China on the march. But make no mistake, none of that would have happened had we not had the debacle in Afghanistan. The idea that my husband and his military brothers and sisters who served there had to watch us leave Bagram Air Force Base in the middle of the night without telling our allies who stood shoulder to shoulder with us for decades because we asked them to be there. Think about what that said to our friends. More importantly, think about what that said to our enemies. Our focus, and now they're basically saying, do we support Ukraine and Israel, or do we secure the border? Don't let them lie to you like that. Securing the border is priority number one. Hands down. America's acting like it's September 10th. We better remember what September 12th felt like. But making sure we prevent war is also a priority. Our goal is to make sure that we do everything we can to protect Americans, that we do everything we can to prevent war, that we do everything we can to make sure that freedom and democracy lives. And in doing that with national security, we need to make sure we turn our energy sector into an economic powerhouse. Right now, the EPA cares more about sagebrush lizards than they do about whether we can afford our utility bill. We need to speed up our permitting. We need to do our pipelines, including the Keystone Pipeline. We need to make sure we export as much liquefied natural gas as we can. All of the above. No more going hat in hand to Saudi Arabia. No more getting dirty oil from Iran or Venezuela. So we know what we need to do for domestic policy and for national security. But now we have to acknowledge some hard truths. Republicans have lost the last 7 out of 8 popular votes for president. That is nothing to be proud of. We should want to win the majority of Americans. But the only way we win the majority of Americans is if we have a new generational conservative leader that leaves the negativity behind and focuses on the solutions of the future. Now, I'll give you another hard truth. I voted for Donald Trump twice. I was proud to serve America in his administration. But the reality is, chaos follows him. And we can't be a country in disarray and a world on fire and go through 4 more years of chaos. We won't survive it. And then you look at the fact that if we want to change our country, we actually need to win. Donald Trump lost in 2018, 2020, 2022, but look at last week what happened. He lost his case on immunity. We lost the case on Mayorkas. We lost the case on Israel. The RNC chair lost her job. He had his hands on all of that. Everything he touches, we lose. And not only that, look at what he said last Saturday in Conway, South Carolina. Whenever he leaves the teleprompter, he gets unhinged. And he, in that moment, went and said that any NATO country that wasn't pulling their weight, that he would not defend them. He went and took it a step further and said any country not pulling their weight, that he would actually encourage Putin to invade them. So you mean to tell me that he is going to side with a thug where 500,000 people have been wounded or killed because of Putin invading Ukraine? But more than that, he's going to side with a thug who kills his political opponents? He's going to side with a dictator who arrests our American journalists and holds them hostage? He's going to side with a dictator who has not hidden his hatred for America? And you're going to pick that thug over our allies who were with us at 9/11? Not only did he put our allies in danger when he said that, he put our military men and women in danger that are serving there right now. And then he doubled down and he mocked my husband's military service. Now let me say this. When you're in politics, you learn not to take any of this personally. That's actually the problem with Donald Trump and Joe Biden. They take everything personally. This is supposed to be about you. But the issue is, if you will mock one member of the military, you're mocking every member of the military. These men and women don't deploy for kicks and giggles. They're not willing to shed blood just because it's fun. They do this because they know freedom is not free. But this is a pattern that he continues to do. He went and he said that military who lose their lives in service, he said that they're losers and suckers. He was at Arlington National Cemetery and said, what was in it for them? He's never been near a military uniform. He's never had to lay on the ground. The closest he's ever come to being in harm's way is buy a golf ball if he's sitting on a golf cart. So he has no business saying anything negative about our men and women in uniform. But not only that, now let's look at what we're facing. And this is what America is saying. 70% of Americans have said they don't want a Trump-Biden rematch. The majority of Americans disapprove of Donald Trump, and the majority of Americans disapprove of Joe Biden. 59% of Americans have said Joe Biden's too old and Donald Trump's too old. And look at what has happened in this election. I announced a year ago yesterday that I was running for president. We had 14 fellas in the race. We defeated a dozen of the fellas. I've just got one more fella I got to catch up to. They said we didn't have a chance. We started with 2%. We finished with 20% in Iowa. They said we were down 30 points in the polls in New Hampshire, and we got 43% of the vote. And the night of New Hampshire, Donald Trump threw a temper tantrum right there on stage. All he did was talk about revenge and my dress. Then the next day, he said anybody that supports her is barred permanently from MAGA. We had a little fun with that. We did some T-shirts that said barred permanently. We got a gentleman over here wearing them. We sold over 20,000 T-shirts when we did that. Then the next day, he goes and pushes the RNC to name him the presumptive nominee. Now, we don't anoint kings in America. We don't do coronations. Everybody has a right to vote. South Carolina has a right to vote. Texas has a right to vote. He doesn't get to take that away from you. When he got pushed back, he had to start walking it back. Then the next day, he has a court case, and he goes on a rant about being a victim. The problem I have with what happened at New Hampshire, or what happened after that court case, at no point did he ever talk about the American people. At no point did he talk about us being $34 trillion in debt. At no point did he talk about the fact that only 31% of 8th graders in our country are proficient in reading. At no point did he talk about an open border that's out of control. At no point did he talk about the lawlessness in our cities. At no point did he talk about the wars around the world. All he did was talk about himself. And then we get the campaign disclosures, and we see that he paid $50 million of campaign contributions to his own personal court cases. And now he's going to go back, and now he's trying to take over the RNC. He's taken someone from North Carolina, and he's having them co-chair the RNC with his daughter-in-law. And he's putting his campaign chair as director of operations. Now, if he spent $50 million on that, he's going to the RNC for help with his legal fees. The RNC is broke. The RNC is broke because everything related to Donald Trump is losing. And you look at any general election poll, any of them, we will have a female president of the United States. Don't get too excited. Don't get too excited because the hard truth is it's either going to be me or Kamala Harris. Because you look in those general election polls and Trump doesn't win. He's down by 5. He's down by 7. On a good day, it's margin of error. I'm in every one of those same general election polls, and I defeat Biden by up to 17 points. Do you know what that means? There was another Marquette poll that came out 2 days ago in Wisconsin. Trump doesn't beat Biden. I defeat Biden by 15 points there. You win with double digits. That means we're going into D.C. with a mandate to stop the wasteful spending and get our economy back on track. A mandate to get our kids reading again and go back to the basics in education. A mandate to secure our borders with no more excuses. A mandate for law and order back in our cities. And a mandate for a strong America that prevents wars that we can all be proud of. Don't you want that? Because we could have that. But in order to have that, it's going to take a lot of courage. Courage for me to run, and courage for every one of you to know. Don't complain about what happens in a general election if you don't play in this primary. It matters. You know, 7 months ago, I dropped my husband Michael off at 4 a.m. for another year-long deployment. And I watched him and 230 soldiers pick up their 2 duffel bags of belongings to go to a country they'd never been, all in the name of protecting America. They're willing to sacrifice their lives and their families because they still believe in this amazing experiment that is America. So if they're willing to sacrifice for us there, shouldn't we be willing to fight for America here? Because we have a country to save. But in order to save her, we've got to all do our part. And that means every one of us needs to make sure we go out and tell 10 people that even if they typically are general election voters, in a general election, you're given a choice. In a primary, you make your choice. This is where we have to make our choice. And if we do this is the first time we could actually right the ship. Now let me say this, because you will hear all the media pundits say, but what if, but what if, but what if? I'm not going anywhere. Trump's got another court case March 25th. He's got another one after that. He's going to be in court March and April. He's going to be in court May and June. He said he's going to spend more time in a courtroom than he is going to be on the campaign trail. But let me tell you what we're going to be doing. We're going to be on the campaign trail. The day after South Carolina, I'm going to be in Michigan. They vote 3 days later. And then we're going to have Super Tuesday. And that's where we need Texas to step up. We need you to take a yard sign. We need you to go tell 10 people to get out and vote. We need people to volunteer, to be involved in this. Texas knows how to fight for freedom. Texas knows how to fight for America. And Texas knows that no one tells Texans what to do. You know, when I announced, they asked me why I was running. And I said, my parents came here 50 years ago to an America that was strong and proud and full of opportunities. I want them to know that country again. I'm doing this for Michael and his military brothers and sisters. They need to know their sacrifice matters. They need to know that we love our country. I'm doing this for my daughter who just got married, and I saw how hard it was for her and her husband to buy a home. The average home buyer in America now is 49 years old. The American dream is leaving them. And I'm doing this for my son who's a senior in college. And I am tired of watching him write papers of things he doesn't believe in just to get an A. That's not us. That's not America. And for the first time, 81% of Americans have said they don't think their kids are going to live as good of a life as we did. We can't be okay with that. I'm not okay with that. We do have a country to save. But I'll tell you this, if you make your voice loud, if you go tell 10 people, if you join our movement, I promise you, our best days are yet to come. God bless you. Thank you, San Antonio.